For a limited time, get your perk posters and t-shirts today at radredring.com. Hello and welcome to my breakdown and analysis of the Cornelius Pennell radios that reveal what happened to Ultimis after Moon. If you'd like some more backstory to understand 5, I suggest checking out my Radios and Reels video I made that has even more backstory explaining how 5 happened. I also have red phones that give us 3 more character quotes that will explain things further in another video being made. If you're unfamiliar with how this works, I will play a radio and then break it down and try and summarize it as concisely as possible for you to understand before moving on to the next. That way you don't get lost in all these radios and so many details. Some of you have been asking for a full storyline video. I will be happy to make an updated one once we're done with all the Easter eggs on all Ether maps, because they will change how we interpret the storyline. Without further ado, the first radio.
This is Groomslake Station Chief Cornelius Pennell. Personal log, March 11th, 1961. After being unable to get McElroy or Gates to see the light, I hoped my meeting with McNamara would fare better, but I had no such luck. For years now, DoD have run experiments with their 115 division, but we're the ones with all the supply. I told McNamara we have the Fort Knox of Element 115 right next to our nuclear testing site. If we combined resources and work together instead of simply bartering resources, Groomslake could receive the funding to properly mine the materials and expand experimentation. But no, McNamara was uninterested. Another Secretary of Defense, another bust for Project Broken Arrow.
What was once a minor character, Cornelius Pennell was the handler that sent Peter Mccain into Verrückt to infiltrate Group 935 under the OSS. That's the World War II version of the CIA. In this radio, he's discussing how he is pitching more funding and a better partnership between him and the Department of Defense, but they don't seem interested. What you probably don't remember from the original storyline, Element 115 hit in multiple places, one of which was Pennsylvania, and then that 115 rock was then moved to Groomslake and harnessed for its power and energy. But that was the original storyline. This could be the very same Element 115 rock, or a completely separate deposit that was found inside Groomslake. That's why we see the Newtown drill and loading screens mining it. Cornelius Pennell is extremely frustrated that he's not getting his funding because he believes he can do a lot more if they had more funding.
Personal log, February 23rd, 1963. With construction of the moon teleporter ongoing, a number of scientists from the Pentagon's 115 division have been stationed on site here at Groomslake. Dr. Schuster, head of the operation, continues to be full of surprises. He's been telling me these stories about an evil little girl named Samantha, that she can control the undead. I asked Colonel Sawyer about it, and he told me to pay it no mind. Apparently everybody's been laughing off Schuster's stories for years now. But then, yesterday, Schuster says he has proof. He claims this Samantha is responsible for several outbreaks over the last 20 years. He rattles off a bunch of names, and one of them was the Rising Sun facility. I lost a good man there, Peter Mccain, and never got an explanation for it. I've decided to investigate this further.
This next radio helps explain how things came to pass in Groomslake and throughout the development of America's 115 research. In the Reels and Films video I made, you can hear the radios that describe Operation Stapler, where Dr. Richtofen negotiated deals to send German scientists to America to help continue the research of Group 935. Dr. Schuster was sent to America, and in that Films and Reels video, we find out that everybody laughs at him and doesn't believe what he's been through. Those are the events that we remember on Moon, when Sam falls into the MPD and takes control of it. Maxis dies and tells Samantha to kill them all. Samantha continues to tactically attack places with connections to 935 and Edward Richtofen. This helps explain why everyone in the world is abundantly aware of the zombie problem in the original storyline. Peter Mccain finally gets explained even more so in this and upcoming radios. Peter Mccain was sent to Shinonuma, and he ended up getting killed. Remember when he parachuted in and we see that dead body? That is in fact Peter Mccain. That mission is what triggers Pennell to go down the rabbit hole to figure out what is going on.
Personal log, July 29th, 1963. I've spent the last several months combing through archives and conducting extensive research. And I can't believe what I'm about to say, but this is real. This girl, creature, entity, this being possesses a very real and very dangerous power. Fortunately, as of now, her attacks have been contained. But if she were to choose to unleash fury, she could wipe us off the map. And not just the United States, she could destroy everyone. But there is an opportunity here. To combat this threat, the Pentagon's going to need to significantly increase their 115 operation. To support that, they'll need greater access to our gold mine at Groom Lake. Project Broken Arrow is the key to all of this. 2 birds, 1 stone. We'll combat a threat to national security, and I'll secure the funding for my program and its operations. I'm drafting a report on the incident. Plan to present it to McNamara in the coming week.
I would miss everything.
Take away from this radio is Sam's true power. It's wonderful to get context to literally how powerful Samantha is and the damage she can do. Furthermore, Pennell uses this opportunity to manipulate the U.S. government to get his personal project of Broken Arrow into existence. This research, this group to make things happen. In the next radio, we're going to get the beautiful meaning behind it, but what this one highlights is Cornelius's personality. It seems like he's become a very jaded old man through all the terrible things he's done over his life, sending men to die.
Personal log, September 3rd, 1963. The discussion with McNamara was a resounding success. His plans for it are bigger than I ever thought possible. Fools. It was so easy. All those hawks over there think about is war. I offered them a morsel, a nugget, and had the meeting out of the palm of my hand. Yeah, well, good riddance. They'll get their war, and I'll get my riches. They want to destroy this Samantha? It's so narrow-minded. Why destroy her when we can take her power and harness it for ourselves? With the amount of element 115 buried down there, just imagine what we could do. We could mold the earth anew, create it in our image. A toast. Here's to Dr. Schuster for gifting me this opportunity. When we get the excavator up and running at the test site, I'll be sure to get him access. And here's to Broken Arrow and to opening new worlds.
In this radio, Broken Arrow gets approved. Broken Arrow is the facility we end up seeing in the comic books of the transit characters. We see the motivations for Pennell are money and power, and it absolutely corrupts him. The effects of 115 are making him go crazy. We're going to hear in the radio in just a bit how he sits in rooms with 115, and this is what leads him down his crazy path. We know there are tons of side effects to 115, and they are devastating. This also explains why Dr. Schuster shows up in the new comic book loading screen in the comic books that was given to us during the transit cruise cycle. To say the very least, all the radios inside Classified are filling in every blank possible in the original storyline.
Broken Arrow. Dream of mine for many years. When I joined the company, you know what I did? What I cut my teeth on? I sent men to their deaths. I was a handler. First for the OSS, then the CIA. I oversaw ops, and I sent in men to die. I was a bow. They were my arrows. Smokey, John Banana, and Peter McCain, Tank Dempsey. The list goes on. On. So many men lost. But my ops were good. Job well done. Pats on the back for Pennell. So, I climbed the ladder and eventually became station chief here. and spent much of my time, now that I think about it, in this very room. After we'd mined the element 115, we'd store it in here. I would stare at it for hours. I got lost in it. And then one day, it just clicked. I had to do what Group 935 failed to do. I would build a program to harness its power. I was tired of killing. I wanted to create technological marvels, help humanity improve the human condition, and who knows, maybe even bring the dead back to life. Repair the broken arrow, if you will. Now, I have the perfect test subject.
This radio fleshes out Pennell in a interesting way because it gets into why Broken Arrow was called Broken Arrow. There is a definition online when it talks about losing a massive weapon, or I think a nuclear bomb. But in the context of why Pennell named it, it comes back to the origin of his character. He was originally the handler for all the people he sent out on ops, and he was the bow, and all the people that he sent on his missions were the arrows. And you could see every time one fell, you could think metaphorically that the arrow snapped. With the Broken Arrow program, he hoped to repair these arrows, or these people. The people he sent to his death, he wanted to bring them back to life. He wanted to no longer kill, but he wanted to create. It's something you can identify with, but it still corrupts, which is so interesting about the whole character and situation. He wants the powers of a god. He wants to harness these things for himself. What was first money and trying to get ahead in his projects has now become a power struggle, like we see with Samantha, with Richtofen, with many characters in the past. I reiterate, he went crazy inside these rooms staring at 115. The element itself seems to manipulate or corrupt man, and that's what happened to 935 when they started with good intentions to improve the human condition, and then eventually led them down a dark path. And the final line is the one that we start getting very interested in, the test subjects. Moreover, boy, doesn't that sound familiar from The Giant?
This is Cornelius Purnell, Report 639, August 3rd, 1963. Earlier today, while Dr. Schuster was performing test number 11, we had an unexpected arrival through the teleporter. We've been unable to verify what year they came from. Our struggle with temporal anomalies during teleportation is well documented, but we are certain of where they came from: the moon. This event alone is baffling enough and is without explanation. But it becomes downright absurd when you take into account that I know two of the four individuals. Corporal Tank Dempsey of the United States Marine Corps, who I knew personally and was declared KIA after a failed rescue op to recover Peter Mccain. And Dr. Edward Richtofen from Group 935, who went missing weeks after we formalized the agreement to initiate Operation Stapler. I didn't recognize the other two, but they and Corporal Dempsey were in a delusional, near catatonic state. Medical evaluation shows they've suffered from excessive element 115 exposure. And quoting our medic, "I'm not even sure how they're still alive." As for Dr. Richtofen, initially we believed him DOA. Upon closer examination, we discovered his body is very much alive, just zero brain activity. How it came to be that these four men were on the moon, we may never know. However, for the immediate future, we'll be keeping them here at Groom Lake. They are ideal candidates for additional 115 testing.
Getting very excited. This is after the radio occurs inside Area 51 that you click again in my previous video when Schuster's doing his testing. Tank, Takio, Richtofen, and Nikolai come out of the teleporter. The three of them are still very much corrupted from Moon, and this is post-Moon, so they blew up the Earth, which means they are from a different timeline. Now you may ask, why is Richtofen catatonic? Well, before the entire universe gets basically destroyed, buried endgame Maxis plucks Samantha out of Richtofen's body and saves her according to the timeline. So it fits perfectly with the original timeline, but we have now created two versions of Ultimis. The version of Ultimis we know and classified, and the version of Ultimis from the original storyline. The real original group survives, and they are now at Groomslake in our game. The very Groomslake we visit. They are being held there against their will. What's depressing is they're once again being used as test subjects. They were once abused by Edward Richtofen to a point of no return, and here they are again being abused by the United States government. But like I mentioned previously, awaken the test subjects. What we once thought was the transit crew, and what we once thought before that was the 2.0 characters, is now looking to be the original Ultimis stolen and stored at Groomslake.
Bad dog!
This is Cornelius Purnell. Report 715, October 13th, 1963. I'm filing this report on behalf of Private Gordon. Private Gordon was working graveyard in Hangar 4, where our new test subjects are being kept. At 0300 this morning, Private Gordon reports a, quote, bright blue oval-shaped light beam materialized in the room, end quote. Out of said light beam stepped, and I quote, a zombie dressed in a World War II German military uniform. This zombie did not interact with Private Gordon, but instead slowly walked up to the comatose body of Dr. Edward Richtofen, who, up until now, we've been unable to resuscitate. Private Gordon then observed this zombie touching the body of Dr. Richtofen, at which point the zombie turned to ash. And Dr. Richtofen immediately let out a guttural shriek and began cackling. I cannot verify Private Gordon's story, but what I can tell you is that as of this morning, Dr. Richtofen is very much alive, and he is very animated. So much so, we've since had to have him sedated.
Come get me!
Closing radio from Purnell talks about the zombie Richtofen we saw in the comic book series coming back to him through those blue portals we've seen them teleporting through the comics and in Blood of the Dead, and this ends up allowing Richtofen to go back into his body. This is the same body he originally started in. It comes full circle because he gets control of the MPD, then he loses to Maxis in the buried endgame, and he becomes a zombie because Maxis punches him. He goes on this journey with the Primus Richtofen in helping Victus get the Cronorium, and then he ends back up in his body. So there is potential right now that because he was purged from the ether, that he is cleansed. Though he's cackling and they had to sedate him, we might have a good guy Richtofen leading Ultimis right now. On top of that, it helps us understand what the loading screen from the comic book means. You saw Ultimis Richtofen with 3 Primus characters. This continues to foreshadow the ending of Blood, that Primus Richtofen is going to have to die to allow Mob of the Dead to be destroyed for good. What's more interesting is the Ultimis Richtofen now knows all about Dr. Monty, thus would make sense for why he would want to go confront Dr. Monty in that loading screen. All in all, these radios are absolutely fantastic, and a cipher has just been broken that I'm going to talk about in my next video, discussing how Ultimis' role continues to evolve in our storyline. I hope you enjoyed this analysis in the video. Please make sure you subscribe so you get all your updates and you know everything you can about this very zombie storyline. Make sure to leave a rating, and if you would like the stuff I'm doing, consider supporting me on either my Patreon page or buying some of that cool merchandise I sell. And just as a reminder, these are pre-orders. They start shipping later in the month. I take all the orders in, and then I try and get them out in bulk shipping week after week. Thanks so much for the support so far, and I cannot wait for even more zombie videos. I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye-bye now. Make sure to subscribe for all your Black Ops 4 news, coverage, and zombie storylines. I'll have more streams and theories and explanation videos coming your way, so stay tuned and have an absolutely wonderful day. Bye now.